Good morning and welcome to the ODPP Café. My name is Anita Onuko. I'm your host for the show. The show is brought to you courtesy of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The show is aimed to educate you, to inform you about matters of the law, especially most of the time when you're in contact with the law, sometimes when you're in conflict with the law, you at least need to know what to do. We are live on Facebook at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions Kenya. We are also on YouTube at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions Kenya. We are live on both channels. You're welcome to engage. You're welcome to join us. Subscribe, invite a friend to follow us and get to learn about the law, of course, from the legal experts. We are also on Twitter at ODPP_KE. And again, we welcome you to follow us and to engage with us as well on Twitter. So as always, we start with the what has been happening in the courts, and our usual disclaimer is that this is not exhaustive, just a little of those cases that have been in the media, or of course that have been happening in the courts. I will start with the first one. It's about the Kenya Pipeline Company. There's an ongoing hearing of the KPC 29 million corruption case at Milimani Law Courts. So the case revealed, at the courts, it was revealed that public money was spent on the supply, installation and commissioning of new auto transformers that were lying idle in the store. The three newly procured auto transformers were left in the store despite KPC allegedly paying money for their supply, installation and commissioning. So this is Kenya Pipeline Company. I think when you see transformers, you immediately think it's KPLC, but it's Kenya Pipeline Company. So officials are in court because of this. They spent 8,695 euros on the supply, installation, testing and commissioning of the new transformers, but just ended up keeping it in the store. The witness was testifying against the MD, the former MD, Charles Kiprotich Tanui, and his co-accused Elias Wainaina Karomi and Josephat Kipoech Sirma. The suspects are faced with counts of abuse of office, willful failure to comply with the law relating to procurement. So this hearing continues. The next is one of those stories that really made headlines when it happened. It's about the murder of Kevin Omwenga Ombati in Kilimani. Omwenga was shot dead on Friday, August 21st, 2020, inside his house in what detectives suspect could have been resulted from a business deal gone sour. On Tuesday, October 25th, a witness, Kelvin Amenya, said that the accused lured the victim into a room in the apartment before shooting him. He further testified that before the High Court that the suspect emerged from the room holding a pistol while shouting that Omwenga had shot himself. So this case looks like it's also still ongoing, and this was one of the witnesses giving his account, his recollection for that day. After the shooting, the witness and the caretaker drove the deceased to Nairobi Women's Hospital. Amenya said the first accused, Ouko, left the apartment while they were looking for an ambulance. He later saw him at the hospital where the victim was pronounced dead. When the witness went to Kilimani police station to report the incident, he found the accused pleading innocent over the killing. The witness said that he confronted the accused in front of the DCIO officers on the whereabouts of the pistol he had used in the murder. Upon a thorough search, the weapon was recovered at the house where Omwenga was killed. So I want to believe this is also one of those that the hearing continues. Quite intriguing as well. The next case is also another corruption case against former Migori Governor Okoth Obado. An ESCC investigator, Robert Rono, told Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi that the raid at Jared Peter Odongo's residential home on 15th March 2018 led to the discovery of tender documents in the 136 million corruption case. The investigator said his team searched and recovered assorted LPOs for tender contracts issued to companies associated with Obado and his co-accused. The witness took the court through some of the LPOs worth millions of shillings in favor of some suspects, business entities for various services and goods to the Migori County government and the governor's office. So this is a corruption case against the former governor of Migori, and it involves 136 million Kenya shillings. The court heard that the LPOs, dated on diverse dates and months between 2014 and 2015, had Migori County government impression stamps and signatures of the Migori County head of supply chain services. The witness was testifying against Obado and others in court, also charged as 7 entities, including Mysoft Limited and other companies that quite a number of companies here, all of them associated with the former governor. They're facing 25 counts, including conspiracy to commit an economic crime, conflict of interest, money laundering, and unlawful acquisition of property. Another graft case that was covered this week in the courts was about the Kapsokon, Kamukuywa Kaptama Kapsokon Sirisia Road. I got it right. A former Minister of Transport engineer testified how the redesigning of that road, let me not repeat it, led to the loss of 33 million Kenya shillings. Chief Magistrate Elizabeth Juma had that redesigning led to variations in tender costs and further acquisition of land. Looks like they now had to buy more land to accommodate the redesigning. Testifying against ex-Transport CS, Engineer Michael Kamau, the witness, Engineer Abdul Rashid Sheikh Mohammed, stated that under procurement law, for a project to increase in price by more than 25%, it should be re-advertised, and he said that this was not done. So that was the Kamukuywa Kaptama Kapsokwony Sirisia Road. For those who travel those sides should know where that is. He further testified that he took the project after redesigning had been sanctioned by his predecessor, an accused person in the case. The prosecution was led by Vera Hamisi and Kahoro Terry, and the case is fixed for a further hearing on 16th of November 2022. And then there's a case of the disappearance of the Kenyan and the 2 Indians. Kahawa Court has adjourned the matter, in which 5 detectives are being investigated into the disappearance of the Kenyan, Nicodemus Mwania Mwange, and 2 Indian nationals. The 5 are under investigations, as I think you've seen the case in court. And of course, even it quite made some headlines. The 5 are under investigation, were arraigned in court after 4 others had already been arraigned or before the same court over the same matter. Chief Magistrate Diana Muchache allowed an application by the 5 suspects to file a formal application against the state's request to have them detained for 30 days to allow conclusive investigations. Also quite an intriguing story that we have there. The court was also requested to order DNA samples taken from the respondents for purposes of profiling and comparison with some recovered items believed to belong to the missing Indian nationals. The state, through Michael Sang and SPC Harion Kiarie, is also seeking court authorization to subject electronic gadgets recovered from the 5 detectives for forensic examination. The matter has been scheduled for mention on October 31st, 2022, when the court will hear the application by the council representing all 9 detectives. So those are just some of the cases we had for you today. And I like saying they're not conclusive. We can't give you a conclusive court report. I think most of these things are in public domain on social media and of course on traditional media. And so these are just some of those we wanted to highlight for today's show. And so we get back to our story for the day. Our apologies for running late. We had some technical challenges. And I also apologize to my guests. I'm very sorry for starting late. So I will start by asking them to introduce themselves. Maybe I start from this side because you're nearest to me.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Viewers, and good morning, Anita.
Yes.
My name is Charity Oluoch. I'm the Chief Magistrate, Milimani Children's Court.
Okay.
And I am happy to be here.
Karibu sana.
Good morning.
Yes.
My name is Ezekiel Kimani.
Mhm.
I'm an Assistant Director, Directorate Children's Services. I'm based at Nairobi Children's Court and the Family Division of the High Court.
Oh.
Asante.
Karibu sana. Get to round 3.
Yeah,
Yes.
Good morning, Anita, and
Morning.
good morning, viewers. My name is Gertrude Kilu. I am a Principal Prosecution Counsel. I prosecute in the Children's Court and also in the anti-FGM unit in the ODPP.
Karibu sana.
I'm glad to be here. Thank
Sasa
you for
hapa tuko na
having
baba
us.
yao na mama yao.
Yes.
Wanachunga watoto.
Yeah.
So the Amended Children Act of 2022 was quite celebrated. As you may all be aware, you're the stakeholders in this space. I saw the excitement when the president assented to the bill. And of course, it has been said that it has been an improvement from the previous act. And we want to learn more. And we are saying that it has addressed issues emerging issues affecting children. And I believe some of those are even things to do with the internet. Yeah, online stuff. And also the gaps identified during the implementation of the previous law. So the Children's Act 2022 was enacted in compliance with Kenya's requirement under Article 2 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Its purpose is to further give force to Article 53 of the Constitution. Hata before we start, what does Article 53 say?
Article 53 of the Constitution provides for parental responsibility. The first part of it provides for the basic needs of a child, you know, right to free basic education, the right to health care, nutrition, and all that. And then the second part of it provides for equal parental responsibility by parents of a child, whether or not they were married to each other.
Oh,
yes.
So it deals with deadbeat parents.
Yes, it does.
I don't see deadbeat fathers, deadbeat parents.
Yes.
So as we start, what is the mandate of the judiciary in creating a child? What is that called? I want to say a child
justice
friendly environment. It's quite a mouthful. A child justice friendly environment. What's the mandate of the judiciary when it comes to this?
Okay, thank you. Now, as a children's court and judiciary at large, we have a responsibility to ensure that there is a child-friendly environment available to children in conflict with the law and children in contact with the law. So this is wholesome. It has to do with the facilities that we provide. You know, it's got to be child-friendly. We must have child-friendly interview rooms, child-friendly courtrooms, chambers, and even registries. And then when a child comes before us, of course, there are things that we need to do. We have to ensure that preliminary inquiries have been done by the departments that are supposed to do this, say the probation department or children departments. We have to ensure that the child has legal representation. We actually appoint advocates for them. All through the process, we have to ensure that the rights of a child are protected, particularly confidentiality and the right to privacy. And then, of course, there's an element of expeditious disposal of their cases. They're supposed to be heard and determined within 6 months.
Within 6 months? 6 months. All cases?
Yes.
Any case involving a child must be heard within
child
6
in
months.
conflict with the law.
6 months.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. I never knew that. Oh, quite interesting. So, Ezekiel,
Yes.
this year's,
Right.
what is the mandate? How do you ensure that, how does your mandate respond to this child-friendly justice environment?
Well, actually, the mandate of Directorate of Children's Services is quite broad, given the fact that it is the government agency charged with ensuring the realization, immediate realization of all the rights of the children, as provided by the international law and the Constitution. So we are the forefront. We are the government agency that even helps the court when it comes to disposition of justice. We provide social inquiry reports for expeditious disposition of justice. So we are there to help other agencies to ensure that the rights of the children are safeguarded. Where the right of the child, it is the right of the child to be given a name and to be registered. So that mandate is not domiciled in our department. It is domiciled in another government department. So we intervene to ensure that the children are registered in accordance with the Constitution.
Okay.
So our role basically is to push to ensure immediate realization of all those rights of the children.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really have to ask this because I asked this last time we were talking about children and I never got an answer.
Right.
Is the right to a good name also a right?
Well, not necessarily.
You know, they are
a
taught in
good
CBC.
name.
I was told.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it does not provide for the right of a good name. It provides for a name.
A name.
And when the child is registered, is given a name, it provides for their identity.
Yeah. Oh, it's for
So
identity.
it is identity purposes. It's not necessarily for giving them names that are good or nice.
Jaden.
It is for identifying them, giving them identity.
Oh.
A child of so and so.
Oh, it's for identity. I think
for identity.
it's the new crop CBC. So I had them recite the rights of children, and then they said the right to a good name.
It is the right
To a name.
Sorry, so
Yes.
which is a bad name? Allow me to ask.
No,
Like
maybe you
which
could
one?
be, you know, sometimes you're so angry and then you get a baby like, huyu akae kama wayo tumuite majina mbaya mbaya.
Like which one?
I don't know what to say.
Okay.
She annoyed me. You know, then you can just coin a thing.
Oh,
She's
okay.
annoying.
Okay.
He's annoying. But I don't know. I'm just guessing. I never thought of it, but it's amusing that they are taught there is a good name
And
a bad name.
Yeah.
So and maybe they should correct that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Gertrude, what
Yes.
is the mandate of ODPP when it comes to creating a friendly environment for children?
Okay, thank you, Anita. First of all, we complement what the courts and the children's office will do, where they create the child-friendly environment.
Yeah.
And when it comes to access to justice for the child, let's begin with the basics. Even the way you speak to the child matters. When the child has been brought to court, either a child in conflict with the law or in contact with the law, how do you speak to them? What kind of questions do you ask them? Where you have a vulnerable child, what kind of protection do you offer for this child? Our chief has indicated that matters need to be expedited. Do we ensure that these matters are being expedited? What do we do as prosecutors to see that cases are being expedited? You know, those are some of the things we ensure that we have a child-friendly justice system. Yes.
Ah, okay.
And
So,
maybe that also responds to other needs of this child. As prosecutors, because we interact both with the child victims and with the children in conflict with the law, there are needs which this child might have that might come to my attention as a prosecutor. For example, if the child is unwell, and this is a subject who happens to be unwell, what do we do? I am at liberty to request the court that this child needs treatment. You know, when they bring in their social inquiry report, the issues that stand out in that report are also issues which can be addressed by the court. So aside from only dealing with prosecutions, we are alive to the other circumstances surrounding this child, be it a child witness or a child in conflict with the law or a child victim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So then I may just need to ask you, Madam Chief, why is this new act so celebrated? What is the difference between what we had before and what is here now?
This act has brought a lot of changes, provided for a lot of things that were not catered for by the old act. One of them is that it now provides protection for intersex children. We do not have it in the other acts. It defines a lot of things that were not clear in the other acts, like child abuse. We have it very well explained. It provides protection for children in the digital environment. You know, it criminalizes the online child exploitation and abuse. It provides for quite a number of things. Definition of age. We used to ask for age assessment reports from medical officers, but that was not catered for in the old act. Now it is. Where the age of a child is not known, say a child does not have a birth certificate, then we can ask for an age assessment report to get to know the apparent age of the child. In terms of jurisdiction of the court, the children's court, it's now expanded in the sense that we are not only going to handle cases where a child is charged with a criminal offense, even where a child is a complainant in the case. They're supposed to be heard by a children's court. And then for the judiciary, I know this is going to be work in progress, things for the future. There's supposed to be a specialized court in every county and sub-county. There's supposed to be a registrar to manage that court and even deputy registrars. So I think it is it's a milestone for the children of this country. Yes.
Are you celebrating these actors this year and why?
Yes, we do. Of course, for us, this year's the new act mirrors the national child care reform. In these reforms, we are seeking to remove all the children from institutional care and place them in family care or alternative family care. So when you look at the act, it gives the charitable children institution, or what you call children homes, only 10 years to do their business and close shop. After 10 years, the children homes, as we know them, they will cease to operate.
No, that is quite interesting.
Yes.
Why?
Because we want the children to be brought up in families.
What does that mean? You will place children in
Yes, so the
foster care. Those are things you watch on TV, so maybe you need to break it down.
The new act has made it so easy for a parent to foster a child. In the previous act, the child needed to have been committed into a CCI for them to be fostered. Now, you can just foster a child without necessarily without any referral to court or without any reference to court. A children officer has been mandated to offer foster care arrangement.
Oh, that's
It's
interesting.
easier. And again, that foster care can transition to adoption, making it very easy for parents, for people to live with children. So that way we are going to remove all our children from institutional care to unattended.
So children homes are considered institutional, like it's institutional care.
That is institutional care.
Oh wow.
Yes.
That is quite I never thought that could change.
And in fact, that is where the whole world is moving. Yes.
From institutional
institutional care to family care. And it is informed by sound research that children who grow up in institutional care do not holistically develop. Some tend to have criminal tendencies. That is why we want to correct that by removing them from institutional care and bring them home.
Oh wow,
so it is easy.
That's quite surprising.
Right.
So in the next 10 years, we won't have children homes.
In the next 10 years, the children's homes, as we know them, they will
not exist.
Yes, legally speaking.
Okay.
They will not exist.
How will the foster care work? Will you facilitate parents who take on children?
So what the department is intending to do is to come up with a foster care database whereby children, family foster care parents, where those children in emergencies will be placed temporarily as we sought for a long-term care plan. Yes. Okay. So, for example, a child is abandoned at birth. We do not want those children to
go to homes.
To children's home. We will identify families where those children can be housed temporarily, as we seek now a proper integration method.
Oh wow.
Yes.
I think this can be a whole topic. I'm just so interested in the whole story, but maybe we can plan for that another day. Gertrude, why is ODPP celebrating this new act? Are you first of all celebrating it? I'm just assuming you are.
Yes. Indeed, we are celebrating the new act. First of all, because of the offences that have been criminalized. As Chief mentioned, we have the online offences. And initially, we would operate in a vacuum. We did not, the law did not provide how do you charge somebody who befriends a child with the intention of making them a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or as we like to say, nimemuoa, in that general term. Yes, initially, or even having a sexual conversation with a child would be difficult to charge. But now the Act has criminalized such conduct, and it is called grooming.
Oh.
Yes, grooming. Yes, you see the way you make yourself, vile unajitengeneza. Now as an adult, unatengeneza mtoto. So that they're suitable for your needs as a spouse.
Okay.
You see? And the challenge that has been there with grooming is that there's always an element of quote-unquote consent from this child. But what the Act is now bringing on board is that sexual communication with a child is wrong, with the intention of having this child become either your girlfriend or your boyfriend or a spouse, or just for purposes of having sexual intercourse with them. It is wrong. So that is a milestone, and a big milestone, because adults, let me use Kiswahili, which is conversant, walikuwa wanakatia watoto, wanaingiza box. Yes. And then this child or this, you take advantage, during the teenage years when emotions are high, hormones are high, she quote unquote falls in love with you, and you're a grown man or you're a grown woman. That is not in the best interests of the child.
I think that's interesting, because I think before it was when you had sex with her is when now there's a case against you.
Yes.
But now it caters for even the process.
Yes.
The story before.
Yes. What happens with grooming is first you develop a friendship with this child, an ordinary friendship. And then you create a relationship. And that relationship, you build a trust. So this child trusts you. So there's already a friendship, there's already a relationship, they trust you. And then based on that trust, now you prey on this child, and Some even go to the extent of teaching this child.
Yeah.
So this is what we are going to be doing, you know, because I love you so much.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's so wicked. It is wicked in ways we cannot explain. Yes. And once this child is now in a sexual relationship with this person, now the element of control comes in, or sometimes even blackmail.
Yeah.
Yes. Where now either the child has to continue with this relationship, one as a wife or as a husband or as a girlfriend, or you threaten them, you know, with other consequences. Sometimes it can even take a tangent of you're providing for the needs of this child, so they feel inclined.
They feel obligated.
Yes, they feel obligated to be with you, quote unquote, as a spouse. Unamtumia affair, you know, so they feel like they've been pushed to. They've done so much for me. What can I give in return? And they're only asking for, you know, they minimalize it. So yes, we are celebrating. At least children are now being protected from predators and from pedophiles.
So these are the emerging issues.
Yes, it
The
is
world
an emerging
is evolving
issue.
very fast then.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And closely related also now is the issue of online child exploitation. Yeah.
What is that about? It's not about me putting up photos of my children on Facebook, is it?
No, it's not about you putting photos of your children. Let me talk about the photos.
Please.
You can innocently put up your photos. And viewers will forgive me. I'll be very blunt and graphic.
That's all right.
Yeah. And somebody decides to use these photos for sexual gratification. That is wrong. Yes. If you can prove that you have used these photos, innocent photos of children, for your personal sexual gratification, that is wrong. That is child abuse. And then now there's the other instance where children are being sexually abused, but the pedophile or the predator is sitting down to watch as entertainment.
Oh, okay.
Or selling these things as a business, because it's a booming business, unfortunately. They sell images and videos of children who are undergoing sexual abuse. That has also been criminalized. So you cannot possess images of children or videos of children, or even share. Possession in itself is a crime.
It's a crime.
Yes, any child sexual abuse material is a crime to possess. So the act has criminalized this, and that is also a big win for children.
Yeah.
And now children need to know that they need to be safe online, and parents are responsible, and they need to ensure that children are safe online. Who are they interacting with? Who are your Facebook friends? What are you doing on TikTok? You know, are you on social media sites you should not be? Are you on Tinder? You know, those are not things for children. Yes,
Is
to
there an
protect
age
them.
for children to be online? Is there an it's open.
Not really.
It's upon the parent.
Well, not really.
You know, my challenge with these apps, and not to discredit them, is there's no customer care. You don't know who to call. You don't know. I mean, you can just find yourself in a space where you don't know who to ask what. You know, like you see, you may find your child on Facebook, and maybe they're 12. You're hoping that this app ought to cap the age, but they don't sometimes, just open-ended. Even if they cap it, like I think Instagram has capped it, but you still find children there. Yeah. So it's one of those things that maybe in the next act, after many years, they'll incorporate. Yeah. So just a bit about children, the age of culpability. I remember being shocked here the last time we were talking about children, as it was 8, and now it has moved. How important is that?
Well, it is important in the sense that it is now 12 years. This is someone who at least appreciates the nature of what the act that has been committed, as opposed to an 8-year-old who maybe did something innocently. Now, for the 8-year-olds, we see them even in cases like stealing, perhaps, but then we would treat them as children in need of care and protection, not as children in conflict with the law. Now, it's been advanced, but then again, there is the 14 years. We are told that we need to be really careful when dealing with a child who is below the age of 14 years in terms of understanding the offense that has been committed. So we presume that, prove that they know what they did.
So it's presumed that 12-year-old will understand right and wrong.
Not quite. Of course, it has to be proved that they actually understood. But at least these are people who can be charged with a criminal offense. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. We need to define a parent.
Yes.
Who is a parent?
Anybody
who can have a child. Anybody who has.
A parent is, in very simple terms, is just father and mother of the child. So if I am a father to this child, then I am a parent. Yes. Then
So what is that?
can
Just a
escalate
biological
that.
connection?
Yeah, of course it is biologically connected.
Yes.
Because if you are not a parent and you have acquired parental responsibility over and above over that child, then you are a guardian, or you are a fit person who has been placed under the care of that person.
But has the Act considered what now we consider deadbeat parents? Because I've seen even mothers can be deadbeat. So has it considered that a parent is not necessarily your biological parent?
Yes, I think
Does-
there's now an
Yes.
expanded definition in the
Yeah.
Act. So it is a father, mother, or someone who has acquired parental responsibility
Oh,
over the child.
yeah.
So we are talking of guardians, parents who have adopted children. Which other situations do we have?
Where you marry somebody else.
Yes, and assume
Blended-
parental
blended
parental
family.
Blended family.
responsibility.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That's the
Have
term.
changed.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it caters for that. So what happens when you are in a space of a deadbeat parent? What if the other parent, and there are many now, what does the Act say?
No, the Act now is very clear on the fact that both parents, the father and the mother, have equal parental responsibility for the child, whether they are married to each other or not. Therefore, whether your former wife, you separate with them, they go and get married elsewhere, you being the father, you have parental responsibility as against that child.
Lakini unajua watu kataa.
What you got up, but however, if you are the father, that responsibility bears on you legally. You have to provide for that child.
And you've seen people refuse to the extent of going to redact the father's name, the surname,
Yes,
from the birth certificate. Is that even legal?
it is not. That one is not legal because, of course, they are even committing an offense of altering the government document.
Documents.
Yes.
But what if at registration, I
Yes.
have just put Mtoto wa Anita XXX, there's no surname. You know that part for
For
father's
father.
name. Is
That
XXX allowed?
Yes, it is
It's
allowed.
allowed.
It
In
is
what
allowed.
circumstances?
But to me, I think it is not right because you are violating the right of this child to identity. Remember, the Constitution says the child has the
The
right,
right.
to name, and the name gives now the identity, speaks to identity. If you do not put the name of the father, the name of the parents there, you are denying that child the right to identity. Therefore, it is not proper,
what
it is
if-
not right.
But what if you dissed me when I got pregnant? You know ile those stories for relationships, tuliachana.
Yes.
Alafu now I got my baby. I decided my baby's name is going to be Ezekiel Atieno.
Yes. That is irrelevant. That is
What do you
irrelevant.
mean?
As long as he is the father, he needs to appear in the birth certificate.
But
It is as simple as
Even
that.
that's a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Does it mean that a child cannot derive identity from the mother only?
But the child cannot be born by the mother only. There are two people, there are two parents, the mother and the father. You are saying for this child to get that identity, whether or not the father is going to provide for the child in future or not, let this child grow knowing that this is my father. And when I was born,
Yeah.
his name appears on my birth certificate.
I am giving you a warning, you're staying in between two ladies.
Yeah.
I'm warning
Well, I
you,
think
I'm
that
in
can be
between
challenged
ladies.
because there are
Yes.
situations where
Yeah.
a mother is not sure who the
Who the father
biological
is.
father of the
Oh, yeah.
child is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think they can adopt a surname from the mother's side or the mother's surname.
But I'm also
Yes.
just still with Gertrude. Why can't they just have my name and I give them identity?
Your name.
Yeah.
But that identity is incomplete. It
You
is
see now you're
incomplete. However, it is incomplete. But I also agree with what
Yes.
Madam is saying,
Yeah.
that there are instances where
Yeah.
the lady is not very sure.
Yeah.
But wanajuanga. They know.
Mama anajua.
They know. And that is where the issue of the DNA will come in
Yeah.
to determine who the actual parent is.
Yeah.
When that determination has been made, then it is incumbent upon the name of the father to be put on the
On
birth
the
certificate,
birth certificate.
so that the child can realize the right to name and identity. Yes.
That again is such a long story to tell. But now take us back to adoption.
Yes.
When is it? When does it work? When does it not work?
Well, adoption may not necessarily work where the applicants have not met the legal requirements of the law. Say, for example, an adoptive parent, there is a statutory age gap in which an adoptive parent must have in relation to the child. That is the age of 21. You must be at least 21 years older than the child for you to be allowed to adopt them.
21 years older.
21 years older. Again, you must not be over 65 years old for you to be allowed to adopt the child. Of course, there are some other requirements, like you must be of sound mind. You need not to have any criminal record or criminal tendencies. And again, for these homosexuality, we do not allow homosexuals to adopt children. Yes.
Interesting.
Again, with the new act, there is a provision where they are precluding or preventing sole male adults from adopting the children.
Why?
I think that is discriminatory to some extent.
Yes, I agree.
Because the same act allows sole female applicants to adopt even male children. However,
Well,
a sole male applicant
Cannot.
unless he is related to the child.
Okay,
Yes. Yes.
okay, quite interesting. Foreign nationals?
Where there is a ban, there is a moratorium on intercountry adoption, which are called foreign adoptions, and I think until and unless proper regulations are formulated by the National Council of Children's Services, the ban will still continue. However, it is allowed. Intercountry adoption is allowed in the new act, subject only to the rules being set or being formulated by the National Council of Children's Services,
Okay.
not to guide into the international adoption.
But under normal circumstances, can a
Yes.
foreign couple come
Yes.
and adopt a child from
A
Kenya?
Kenyan child,
Yeah.
not no.
They have
We
to have a
don't allow.
Kenyan, affiliated a little to the Kenyan side? Or?
Maybe in the instances where the foreigner is married to a Kenyan,
They can.
then that would be regarded as, and the child is related to one
The
of the
Kenyan.
applicants, because that would be regarded or construed as a kinship adoption, where the child is related to the applicants. So that one may be allowed.
No, I was thinking about
Yes.
like the Madonna situation, how a celebrity can just come from abroad and decide they want to adopt a child.
There is a ban on that now.
There's a ban.
Yes.
But is it possible in other, when the ban is lifted, that's possible?
Yes, when the ban is lifted, I was saying, it will be guided by regulations
regulations.
and rules
Yeah.
to guide it, because it cannot be left open like that, because it can be abused. It can be abused.
Okay.
So when proper rules have been formulated, foreign adoption will be allowed. Yes.
Okay. So you can adopt by kinship, like I can take the child of my sister's child and adopt them.
Yes.
Do they have adoption? What is it? The child is a complete orphan, or what would make you allow an adoption?
Well, of course, you've mentioned of kinship adoption. You can adopt your relative's child if they are not able to take proper care of them, or if the child is orphaned. Yeah.
Yes.
So when a child is orphaned, there is nobody to take care of them.
Yeah.
So parents come in or step in and adopt them. So in these other normal adoption, local adoption, a child is free for adoption if a child is abandoned, and their relatives or their parents cannot be reasonably traced. In that case, an applicant is allowed to adopt those children. But before a child is adopted, they must be freed for adoption. They must be declared free for adoption. Initially, it was adoption agencies or adoption societies that were charged with the responsibility of freeing children for adoption. But the new act, it is the National Council for Children's Services
That now has a responsibility.
that has that responsibility
That's
to
better?
free the children. It's better. It's better when handled by the government. It's better because the government will ensure that this child is available for adoption. Yes.
They would know.
Yes.
They would know. So that actually cures the idea of just randomly deciding which child goes without checking the background and stuff like that.
Yes. So before a child is freed for adoption, there has to be proper investigation done by the National Council for Children's Services before they free that child. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, well, maybe then still on you, Ezekiel, and
Yes.
anyone else can chip in. How does this act cure the idea? Does it deal with street children? We have seen there become so many. And there's a point in time, I think, during Kibaki's reign, when the city council one day just woke up and picked all of them from the streets and tried to place them, I think, now in children's homes.
Right.
So now what happens to them?
Well, that strategy did not work.
It did not.
Because when those children were taken off the streets and placed into institutions, they ran away from those institutions.
Yeah.
However, there's a fund called a Street Children Rehabilitation Fund that is domiciled in Nairobi County.
Okay.
So we are supposed to work hand in hand with them to rid off our streets from street children.
They have become
And we are doing that. We are doing that. We are working with them, and we are trying to remove the children out of the streets. But it is still work in progress. Yes.
Because you see even very small children not going to school,
right,
and they are being subjected to fend for themselves.
It is a concern to us.
It is. It
Yes,
is.
It is a very big concern to us as a department.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Maybe what is missing from this one, Chief?
I think it's too early, really,
Too early to say.
to identify gaps. Yeah, because we are still waiting for rules. We are told they've been drafted, waiting for public participation. Let us wait and see what will not be catered for in the rules. But then there's something that stands out. And I think we had this conversation before this show began. The idea of surrogacy.
Oh.
Yeah, I think there was a debate on it and found its way in the Reproductive Healthcare Bill of 2019, and then it went quiet. Now it is not provided for in the Children's Act. So there are a lot of issues of jurisdiction.
And
Should they be referred to a children's court? Should they go to the High Court as adoption?
Yeah.
And I think there are conflicting decisions even from the superior courts.
Yeah.
Because the challenge we face is that parents come to the courts, and in most instances, they maybe live in foreign countries, so they would want to leave the country with the child after birth.
Yeah.
So they would come to court and ask for an order that the name of the genetic mother is inserted in the birth certificate in place of the name of the surrogate mother. So the big question is, do we have that jurisdiction as a children's court? Should it go elsewhere? And if then this act came so as to take care of the rights of a child wholesomely, why do we have to look outside the act to find an answer to this question? I think it should have been provided for.
Yeah. I think it's one of the emerging issues. It should fall under the emerging issues, because I honestly never thought about surrogacy. And then the new age, the new generation is quickly getting into this space of surrogacy.
Yes.
And that could easily become quite a... Wanasema kizungumkuti? Waswahili? Changamoto. What do you think is missing?
Yes.
Just an overview, not necessarily the exact, like what do you think is missing in your view?
Well, I just mentioned about the issue of sole male applicants being prohibited from adopting children.
Yeah.
I think that is discriminatory, and we're waiting for somebody to move to court. I think somebody will move to court to remedy that situation. Because if the act allows a sole female applicant to adopt a child, then the same act should allow a sole male applicant to adopt the child. So that is a gap that maybe needs to be addressed.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe they're looking at the traditional roles.
The nurturing role of a woman.
Of a woman.
Yeah.
Works better than that of
It's true, but also even men have a role to bring forth and even to provide for the children. They have a big role. Yes. Therefore, they should not be ignored. Just like that.
It's actually encouraging to see a man fronting for that space.
Yeah.
You know, like we want to take
also
care.
Want to be able to do this.
Yes, it's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Especially in the era of deadbeats. I mean, it's very encouraging.
It is. You know, quickly you are seeing, more often now we are seeing a lot of men just abdicating their role. And you see a lot of women taking over the role of both mother and father. Yes. It's a reality.
Yes, it is.
They provide, they are the sole parents. You see them discussing these things on social media. Yeah. How now mtoto fika grade 1 is when now they are taught of a nuclear family. Now the idea of the diakoapi now starts coming up. And this is quite a difficult discussion to have with a child that now, I don't know. Maybe they should have really underlined in red and bold. For as long as you're alive, you must happen in your child's life. So Gertrude, what are some of the policy documents that ODPP has developed to create a child-friendly environment?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank
Yeah.
you. First of all, we have the Prosecutor's Guide to Children Matters.
Yeah.
And what this guide talks about is how should a prosecutor handle a children's matter,
Yeah.
right from when the police officer calls you for prosecution-guided investigations up to the point where the child has been transitioned out of the juvenile justice system.
Yeah.
So it sets out the best practices we have as prosecutors in dealing with the child and in dealing with the other agencies within
Yeah.
the juvenile justice system. We also have the plea bargaining policy and the diversion policy and the practice directions on children matters. So all these documents are to guide the prosecutor, which is the best way to handle a child. It is quite difficult, let me put it frankly, to handle a child in the criminal justice system. It's called the juvenile justice system, but it is difficult because remember this child they're young or they're vulnerable or they have no idea what is going on or they don't even understand why they're there. You know, they should be elsewhere, they should be in school, they should be playing. So these documents guide on how to deal with the child who is brought to you, both in conflict or in contact with the law. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does diversion work? Does it totally, what is it called, exonerate a child from taking punishment?
No.
Yeah.
In fact, diversion is premised on why do we have, okay, let me rephrase the question and answer you also at the
Yes,
same time.
yes.
Why do we have diversion?
Yeah.
So that we do not have these children in the justice system. But then also with diversion, the child needs to understand that they have made a mistake and own up. And we see how best to assist this child. What recourse do we need? Does the child need to give an apology? Does the child need to pay back? Does the child need counseling? Does the child, what other form of remedy is available for this child in diversion? So basically, that is how diversion works.
Yeah.
And then the guideline also, or actually the new act also provides for diversion in a very detailed way.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
because from the new act also, there are stages of diversion. How do we do the diversion? Who is going to supervise the diversion? What happens if the diversion doesn't work? Who is involved in the process? So the new act now brings on board the DPP, the courts, the children's officer, the probation officer, and the victim of a crime.
Oh.
Yes.
And how about, the victim is also considered. I wanted to ask about the victim.
Yes,
Okay.
the victim also needs to give their views
Okay.
about, because they're the affected party.
Yeah.
Yes, they need to give their
What
views
if the
about
victim is adamant that you must just punish this person,
how,
this child?
well,
Hataki kusikia.
The best interest of the
the
child.
best interests of the child, yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
We are
But the
guided
best
by the
interest
best interest
of the
principle.
child.
Yeah.
Because again, a child may have committed an offense, but you're using this, like as an adult, as let's say I'm the victim as an adult, I'm using this scenario to punish the parents, not even the child, but the parents
Yeah.
of this child.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So as he's saying, what is in the best interest of this child who is now a subject before us? What would be, so would the best interest be to prosecute them or to have them go through counseling or to have them, the act even provides for a child to give an apology.
Oh.
Yes,
Written apology.
a written
Andike.
apology. Yes, yes.
I am sorry. I'll
Yes,
never do it again.
yes, you know, it allows.
Oh, nice.
And in a way it is a good thing because now it will mold this child to be a befitting member of society, you know. The same children are our leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I remember back in the day when I was also being taught about diversion, the first question we were asked, how many of you have never been caught doing something wrong? Even here, how many of us?
Never, like,
Yes.
yeah.
So diversion gives this child a second chance to reform. Yes. To know that, yes, I've made a mistake, but there's always a second chance. So we allow, because they deserve. Yeah, children deserve that.
Yeah, so there's a question here on social.
Okay.
Mr. Ezekiel, what happens to the children below 3 years who are already in children homes and have already stayed there for 3 months? What is the limit?
Well, what the law provides is that a child below the age of 3 years can only be taken to a CCI or a children's home as a measure of last resort.
What is CCI?
This is a charitable children's institution or a children's home.
Okay.
So the only time such a child can be taken there is only as a measure of last resort. That this child has been abandoned from birth. There is no relative, there is nobody who is ready and willing to take them in. So what do we do in that case? We take them only for a period of 3 months. So when the child is at the children's home for 3 months, we map out now the strategies of alternative family care, including but not limited to foster care. That is what you're saying.
Is this foster care a new thing?
It is not new, it was there in the previous act. But as I said before, it has been made easier. It is very easy now for a parent to foster a child. A parent can even foster a child even up to the age of 18 years. But when you foster a child for more than 3 years, you must move to court, seeking now to extend the period of foster care in court beyond the age of beyond 3 years. Yes, you must now get a court order.
Does it work like those things you see in the movies that the foster care parents are given a stipend by the government? I'm just saying
it
because
is still work in progress.
yeah.
Not be able to,
we may all
policy
want to
issue.
foster children, but you
Yes.
see economy. Because of financial constraints, the economy is also very inflation. I mean, things are just not right financially for most people.
Yes.
But then maybe in your heart you're thinking, aki ningekuwa tu na space na pesa,
Yes.
ningechukua hata mtoto.
I think the only foster parents who could be considered is those parents who foster children or take in children on emergency basis.
Okay.
Yes, those children who have been found abandoned and they do not have anywhere else to go. Those are the ones that the government would consider in future. Saying in future because it is still work in progress, so that they can be motivated to take good care of those children.
Of those children.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that when they take them in, the Secretary of Children Services now steps in now to map out now a better method to reintegrate the child permanently. Yes.
Okay.
And I think now we
Yes.
have in place the Orphans and Vulnerable Groups Fund, which takes care of children like this.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that they can even be placed under the care of a relative and the government supports through some
the
funding.
children.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Henry Murigi says, say a big hello to Honorable Charity Oloch. I prosecuted matters in her court in Kiambu. And also thank the panel for unpacking the act and issues of children. Thank you, Henry. And then Kauthar Farad says, I'm learning a lot about child law that I think most Kenyans are ignorant. And then Lucia Raphael says, good morning. The new act is silent on how to handle a matter where a child is charged with adults. What is the best way forward?
It is actually not silent. It provides for that. That where a child is charged jointly with adults, then an ordinary criminal court can handle such a case. Yes, it provides for that.
But what happens to the child?
I think from my understanding of the act is the child needs to get the same protection that would be given to any other child
Yes.
in a children's court.
Yeah.
So what I've seen happen in Milimani is where a child has been charged at the lower court, a pro bono advocate will still be appointed for that child. Yes.
In as much as the child is part of maybe adults' child.
Many others,
Yes.
But
yes.
what case would that be? They've
Their
used the
case-
child to steal or what?
Even robbery with
Robbery
violence, you
with
see the
violence.
16-year-olds.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Even
yes.
gang
Oh,
rape.
Gang
Oh,
rape.
yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or
Other
even murder.
Yeah, murder.
Yeah, where children are now charged at the High Court. What happens to them? See, they're still children, regardless.
Yeah.
So the protections of the Children Act need to apply.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking here about images. I think about online photos, images or sexual images of children. I don't know what Karanja Kavyu wanted to ask, but maybe they're just asking the sort of photos. I mean, the limits on sharing photos online. I don't know what he's trying to ask. Maybe I shouldn't guess. Yeah. What you didn't tell us? What do you think is missing in this act?
Well, the act is good, as we have said. What we need now are practice directions on how now to handle matters like diversion. We have this thing now being called a family conference, where the family of the child plus the court and the children's office, they need to come on board. What are the timelines?
Yeah.
Yes, and the Act has also introduced pre-trial procedures. Also, we need to know what are the timelines. Where do we take these children as we wait maybe for the children's office to conclude a report, or for the probation office? So we need direction. Yeah, we need practice directions. And as Chief said, I think they're in the pipeline.
Pipeline. So quite a lot of work.
And just to add to what she has raised about timelines, we're already experiencing challenges, and this issue has been brought to our attention through the CUC, because it starts at the police station. When a matter is reported, a child is arrested, an assessment is supposed to be done. Say a child is arrested on a Friday, there is the 24-hour rule, so that they need to be arraigned in court by Monday. But an assessment has to be done. I do not think we have enough personnel in DCS to do these reports within the shortest time. Yeah, so I think that needs to be addressed as well. Yeah, because it would make sense if a child is first brought to the court, so that orders are given by a court for assessment to be done, for bond terms to be set if possible, and even for orders to be given on placement of this child in the interim. Yes.
I think you're going to see a very busy few years to come. And I think maybe an expansion of now the sort of personnel you need for DCS. Because imagine now you have to be in the lives of these small people. Yeah.
That's true.
All right.
And maybe just to add, I think the assessments are very important because they capture the social background of a child. You know, a child has committed an offense. The assessment will assist to even sometimes bring out the whys, not to justify, but to help us as prosecution understand. Let's say, for instance, a child has been caught stealing. And we don't know why the child has stolen. And then Kimani here goes and does a social inquiry report and finds out that this child is the head of a child-headed household. They have to provide, you know, hawana kazi, like hawana mbele, you know. So they are compelled to look for ways. So somehow the assessment reports are very important. And then as a community now, we'll have to be knowing what is happening within my neighborhood. Because as they do the assessments, they need to talk to members of the community.
So we all go back to village community parenting.
Yes.
If you're allowed. You know, nowadays it's parents who say, usiangalie mtoto wangu.
No, sasa ni wako peke yako, but take care of your child. Because if for instance within your neighborhood you know of a child who goes hungry, will you deny that information to the children's office? Or a child who screams from morning to evening when the parents are not there? You know, or a certain house where you feel there's some illegal activity or bangi happening.
Do you call cops or do you call DCS?
You call both.
You can call
both.
No.
But you call us first so that we can organize how now the child can be rescued. Yes.
Is that information online or in the public space of how to reach you?
You can reach us through, there's an online
Sorry for
platform.
putting you on the spot.
116.
116. It's free.
It is free.
Yes.
Toll free. You can make a call and report any emergency involving a child. And prompt action is taken.
All right.
Yes.
And in fact, now the Act provides for an expanded definition of authorized officer who can deal with a child. A children officer, a police officer, chiefs, probation officers. Yes, as long as you appear in that list. Even a medical officer.
Yes. One thing I'm actually very happy about the Children's Act is now a medical officer is supposed to report where a child has been brought to them, and from looking at the child has gone through abuse. Either be it physical abuse or psychological abuse. You know, when they're treating this child, they can tell these are burn marks. So the medical officer should report. They are now an authorized officer.
I think we heard of a story last week about Narok, where I think a child was defiled, and when they were taken to hospital, they found that the child had undergone FGM. So the medical doctor is the one who reported this story to the cops, of course, and now it's under investigation because now the prosecutor was asking us, would you go for the parents because this child was defiled, you know, that FGM, and now this defilement again. So this child has been abused, but the person who raised the flag was now the medical, Kauthar Faraj, I hope I got your name right, asks what happens to a situation where a child lost her mother and the father, then the father tends to use a child materialistically in sex, and the child can't say anything because it's the father instructing what to do. First, they should report it.
Of course, that's child abuse.
That's
Mm.
clear.
Yeah.
That's
Abuse.
sexual
But you've heard of the
exploitation.
stories of maybe your mom dies and you have a teenage daughter,
Yes.
and the father now just rests knowing
Mm.
I have a replacement,
Mm.
you know, or even a stepfather decides to now make this child a wife.
Mm.
So yeah.
The problem is that such cases may take a while before they are reported.
Mm.
It will take someone else
Yeah.
to
see
detect
it.
that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then perhaps maybe I should add, in my experience, teachers have come in very handy because you see they interact with this child on a daily basis,
Yeah.
so they're able to pick out that there's something wrong
The
with this child
changes.
today, the
Yeah.
change in demeanor or
And behavior.
behavior.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Let me tell you, we also had another story again, I think last week. Very many stories about how there are over 700 candidates in one of the counties. They are pregnant. 700. And those are reported cases. So medical officers again see many children coming for prenatal care. When they finally do a count, 700 girls are pregnant. So the question is who and why has this not been reported? So again, the medical officer, the expanded scope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bit of a challenge with that because, first of all, there's the cultural challenge of their cultures, which to them it's not a big deal. I mean, you're 17, you're 16, you're ready,
Yeah.
you know. So by the time a girl is 20, she has 3 children. By the time she's 25, or 30, probably you're a grandmother. So first of
Yeah.
all, there's that challenge from specific communities.
Yeah.
And then with my informal interactions with medical personnel, some say if we go to report these people, these teenage mothers will not bring the children for antenatal. For
Ni
well
auntie.
baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well
They
baby
will not
clinic.
bring the children for the well baby clinic, or they themselves would not even attend antenatal clinics.
But they decide to give birth at home.
Yes. So they pose a risk both to the mother and to the
The
child.
child.
Yeah. Maybe if we had a child-friendly environment also, so that the child understands you're not there to be victim. We are not reporting to victimize you.
Yeah, we're helping you.
Yeah.
Wahida Abubakar asks, what action can be taken if a social inquiry report is false to favor the applicant?
Of course, a children officer is accountable to court. And the report that they so file are not binding to court. A report by the children officer is not binding.
Oh, it's not binding.
It is not binding,
Yeah.
and a court or a magistrate is not bound by the recommendations therein. Therefore, if any doubt emerges from the report, then the court can easily ask for another report from an independent officer.
Yes.
I think that has always been the trend. If one report is, if one is suspected not to have been very objective, then the court has the latitude to ask for another report. Yes.
So who raise the flag that this thing is false?
However,
yeah.
there are situations where 2 reports come to the same conclusion. Yes, they come to the same conclusion. You see, some of the litigants, if the report does not favor you, you tend to bring those issues in court. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Wahida is asking here. She's asking, can the defendant appeal after a review of the ruling done? Appeal is...
It's a right.
It's a right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can always appeal.
So definitely you can. Questions are coming, and I think because now we were late, we can't even wait for all of them to stream in.
Yes.
So maybe we need to end this, and we'll respond to questions online, offline. I mean, those who are asking right now, we can definitely get back to them offline. And this, I think, was just YouTube, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, this is YouTube. We haven't even looked at the ones on Facebook. But again, because we were late, I beg to end. I think we've already done an hour, if I'm not wrong. I told you an hour actually runs out very fast. And so I want to thank you for coming to the show. At least we've learned new things, and there's still more to learn. I think there's still an opportunity to unpack this, because these things only work when people are sensitive about them. Like I know now, staying here children's home.
It's not
Nitachomeka.
supposed to be- it's not
But you know how
supposed
it's
to be.
working
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
People are making money out
Out
of
of
those
it.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they should just stand advised.
Watafuta kazi ingine.
Watafute
Yeah.
kazi ingine hii inaisha yote. And of course I can be a foster parent
Yes.
in the new act.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very easy.
And Ezekiel can't adopt.
Unless I'm related to the child.
Unless you're related to the child.
Yes.
Yeah. So
But I can adopt jointly with my wife.
Yes.
with
I
your
can.
wife you can.
Join-
Lakini
Yes.
wewe tu mano wa mano.
Standing
Yeah.
alone, you can't.
Utaambiwa kanyage frame.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much again. I wish we had more time for this, and definitely we'll create more time. I think they still need to sensitize. Like it really got me excited about the very simple, small things that are new in the act that protect the children. So, Santini Sana, unless you have a final word, I beg to end the show. Any final?
No, really, just thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
much appreciated.
All right.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone who was online with us and engaging with us, asking questions. Definitely we are learning. Like I told you at the beginning, we aim to educate, we aim to inform. I learn a lot every other time I come onto this show. Today I've learned that a male applicant cannot really be given a child to adopt unless they are relatives. And of course, they have other small regulations. Children homes, CCIs, like I learned again today, are meant to be phased out in the next 10 years. And of course, a lot of things are changing. The age of culpability is now 12, right? And not as it was. It was 8 before, now it's 12. And there are many, many nice things. Now you understand why this act was celebrated when it was assented. And we are going to see new things coming into place, especially for our children. So asanteni sana, keep engaging. We'll find a way to respond to you. And of course, we invite you again to join us next week as we see what else we'll be covering. This month of October, we've talked about children, I think from the first week of October up until now. And we are looking forward to a new theme in the month of November. If you have any ideas of what you want us to maybe redo, repeat, or a guest you want us to re-invite, definitely just reach out and we'll do that for you. So asante sana, have a good weekend, of course, and a blessed week ahead. God bless.